In my last video, I talked about how selling a download speed is a technically obsolete solution to the problem of sharing a connection. But I didn't talk about the economic incentives for selling a download speed, and that's what I'm going to address in this video. If we take a look at the diagram to my left, you'll see an average coaxial cable setup for a neighborhood. We have a single backhaul connection of a couple of gigabits, providing many dozens or hundreds of homes their internet connection. Each of these homes purchases maybe a 100 megabit slice of this backhaul connection. But as an ISP, you realize that most users are not going to be using what they pay for at any given time. So you want to sell that 100 megabits 10 times, 20 times, until your backhaul connection is normally actually saturated, as opposed to the abstract sort of sale amount where you have sold this neighborhood 10 times more bandwidth than you actually have. This is obviously kind of a perverse incentive, because as an ISP, I am tempted to hook up another neighborhood on this same connection and have each user pay me the same amount for a smaller slice of this backhaul. Or I am also tempted to perhaps sell everyone in this neighborhood a gigabit. After all, the connection to the neighborhood is 2 gigabits, so people could at least sometimes receive what they are paying for. Now, this problem is borne out in the 2016 FCC broadband report, where we can see even the newer technologies only provide users with the speeds they pay for about 80% of the time. DSL is much worse, all the way down at 50%. So essentially flip a coin to see if you are going to get what you paid for today. And this is just an industry aggregate. If we dial in on individual providers, we see some of them are as high as 90% and others are as low as 10% of the users receiving the speed they have paid for. Now, the problem here is that what the user is being sold is a very derivative quantity. It is a share of a connection that is being subdivided and oversold, and maybe they receive their full download speed at midnight or at noon when they're not home, but is that fair? What is the user really buying? And the fact that this question is so complicated is what lets ISPs get away from actually providing what they're selling. With Althea, we wanted to change that. We wanted to create a system where users could simply buy a byte of bandwidth, much like they would buy a piece of fruit at the store. And we invented the world's first price-aware routing protocol. And what this does is that it allows your home router to act as a sort of personal buyer and advocate for your internet connection. And what I mean by that is that if we take a look at an example network, let's say your node C here. You take a look at your connections and you take a look at their quality, their round trip time, their packet loss, their price, and you say, well, you know, my user is a gamer, they ask for lower latency, I'm going to go with the best ratio of price to latency. And if that is to change 30 seconds from now, a minute from now, then I will switch to that other connection. So by creating this automated buying system, we can decouple users from subscriptions to providers and make competition easier, better, and even automatic. With an existing ISP setup, if I were to show up to a neighborhood with gigabit, it would take me years just to go to every home and convince every user to switch if everything else was done. But with Althea, if a new, better connection becomes available, everybody will switch instantaneously and everyone's internet will simply silently get better.